Guys, we got a good call ahead of us today. We're going to be bringing Chris Thompson on, and he is going to help us with overcoming objections. He's going to share what he does to minimize and eliminate and prevent them, and exactly what he does when the clients give him the objection. You know, when they got to think about it. They got to talk to the kids first, what have you. So very, very cool today. I do want to welcome a bunch of agents that came on the past week or so. Mike W., Cole, welcome. Anthony M., Bruce D., Matt G., and Michael C. I think I covered everybody that recently came on here. So welcome to the call. Welcome to the platform, guys. I think you're going to really like what we're doing. If you put in the work and you follow the system, you're going to like what we're doing here, because it works for most agents. And I think that's the difference between what we're doing and what, you know, you're seeing with most agencies. Most agencies, it's the old 20-80 rule. As with us, it's a lot better than that. A lot better than that. I think I am ready. Chris, are you there?
I am here. I'm on the road.
Okay, excellent. That's fine. You know, pay attention to the road. I know you can do both at the same time if you got your Bluetooth on. What's going on, Chris? You taking the kids to school?
Yeah, just dropped off the Rugrats.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Excellent. So guys, just a little bit about Chris. You know, he came on board with us a few months ago. And you know what? I'm going to kind of let him, you know, talk a little bit about this. Let's let him introduce himself. So Chris, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what you were doing before, you know, you hooked up with us.
Yeah, and I know I've spoke before, so for the new guys, this is really for you. So before I was doing direct mail, final expense, been doing final expense for 15 years, and I was strictly doing direct mail leads for the last 15 years.
Gotcha. Face-to-face though, that's the big thing. Big difference.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let me just give you know, so we can get an example. Approximately how much AP were you writing there in the end when you were doing face-to-face each week?
I would say probably around I don't know, 4,000.
Okay, about 4,000 a week. Now, since you first came on board with us, how much AP are you writing a week?
I think I'm averaging 11.5.
Okay.
11.5, somewhere in there.
Okay. So okay.
314 weeks.
Right. So basically, you're on your best weeks nowadays, you're writing about the same as you were writing per month before, close to it.
Correct.
Nice. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So let's get into the presentation a little bit. And you know, when you make your presentation, what's your perspective on objections, and what are you doing to minimize objections before they even happen?
Well, to minimize, first, you have to build up a lot of rapport and a lot of trust. And if you really do a good job of making sure they really like you before you ever get to a price, that will help minimize objections. You're still going to have objections, just part of the business. Like Doug said, it's a good thing. So I just try to do a really good job of building rapport and trust before I ever get to the price.
What are you talking about? How are you, you know, what kind of conversation are you having? What topics are you having with the prospects to build that rapport?
Well, I definitely try to relate to them in some form or fashion, you know, whether it's the weather, whether it's the area, some kind of familiar, same age bracket, relate to a past medical situation with a family member, something to where I can connect. And I also try to build up trust from a standpoint that helps too, but also from how legit I am, you know, how important it is for that I can help you in a way. I'm just not a regular agent. You know, I can help you that in a way that other agents are not going to be able to help you. I'm going to be able to offer you something that they can't.
Excellent. And guys, FYI, those of you who have already started the platform and spoken with Brandon, you should have by now received a recording of Chris not only doing a presentation, but of Chris, actually, it's like I've got like a 9-minute recording that I edited that you can hear him exactly how he's overcoming multiple objections. And at the end, the lady actually signs up and purchases the insurance. So if for some reason you've already paid Brandon and spoken with him and you haven't received those recordings, those are important, guys. Please let me know. You can email me or text me, what have you. But that way you can get an idea of exactly what he's doing. And the reason that Chris is a great example for this and that he's helping us with the training today is because the way he actually does it, the way that he overcomes the objections is really smooth, and it lets the client feel real comfortable. And it just, you can hear how they're just totally trusting in him. Like they're feeling him. And some of the things I have heard, like, because I do listen to his recordings, just like I listen to everybody else's. Hey, I'm a student also. One of the main things I notice he likes to talk about is the area. Like if he knows anything about the area, look, guys, even if you got a client who's across state lines and you're not sure where they are, you can actually Google where they live and kind of figure out a little bit about the area, and then that can give you a conversation. And that's kind of what he does. You know, I hear him talking about the area, relating to them, and you know, he brings up what do you call it, like landmarks and stuff like that. Excellent, Chris. Can you do me a favor and give me an idea of what you say when the clients start giving you a basic objection, like you've already made your presentation, and the next thing you know, they start with the, I need to think about it.
Okay. So let me say this, and like I said, I've touched on some of this before, but I haven't actually probably explained it in this manner. So we all get the same objections. I don't care what state you're working. Everybody's getting the same objections. And I will say this, every objection is not created equal. There's some objections you're just not going to overcome because at the end of the day, they're really not serious about buying. And you can say whatever you want to them, that you're going to give them a holiday ham or whatever, and they're still not going to buy. So if you get an objection that says, if someone says, if they say, do I have to make a decision today? Well, that's a green light for me that they're probably going to buy. If someone says those words, I'm selling them most of the time, because they're basically telling you, and you have to pay attention to stuff like that. They're basically telling you that they're wanting to buy. They just don't have the money to do it today. So anytime someone says that, you need to get your game face on, because that's a sale. And I promise you, I'm going to sell that one most of the time. So regardless of the objection, my go-to line for everybody pretty much is, if, for example, if they say I need to think about it, or if they say, you know, do I have to make a decision today? I immediately get excited and go into, well, you know, that's the good thing about American Amicable. They work with people that's on Social Security. And the good thing about them is they don't make you pay anything up front. So we can set this up to start November the 3rd for you, Ms. Jones. And you don't have to worry about coming up with anything right now. You're not really making a decision because it won't even start till November 3rd. So it kind of you're kind of agreeing with them that they don't have to make a decision right now. We're not starting this till November 3rd. You got 3 weeks. If you decide, you know what, I don't need that policy, or I want to go with a different amount, or, you know, if you need to talk to your daughter and she says, hey, Mom, let's do this instead, you got plenty of time. Nothing's going to come out till the 3rd anyways. And I have a lot of success with that. It may not work for everybody, but it works for me. And I have learned over time, depending on what their objection is, how well that's going to work. There's some objections that your closing rate is just going to be really, really low on. I don't care what you say to them. They're just not serious. And there's ways to avoid that. Just for example, if it's a husband and wife, and I know Doug has touched on this, you're almost better off calling them saying, hey, you know, if the wife wasn't at home, hey, did she get home? What time did she get home today? I'll gladly call you back where I can talk to both of y'all together. Because you're going to run into that problem where you're going to get that because neither one of them's there. And at the end of the day, a lot of times they do want to make that decision together. So I try to avoid that one by knowing the information up front. If that wife's at work, I want to hit them both when they're both at home.
Excellent. Excellent. That's all excellent stuff. So, and guys, again, we've got that recording you have access to where you can hear how he builds up. So doing a training call is different than when we're actually on the phone with the client, because you're already into the conversation. And so it's not like with Chris, what you'll hear is it's not like they're catching him off guard. He expects that they're going to give him a little bit of a hesitation. Everybody has to say, well, can I get a couple days to think about it? They all want to do a little bit of that. Or, maybe I need to talk to my daughter first. So the whole thing, if you listen to those recordings, you'll notice how Chris kind of leads up to it in a way where you're realizing, oh, he's expecting that. And now he's using that objection as an opportunity to even build more trust and more rapport. He's not looking at it like, oh no, they're giving me an objection. What am I going to do? He's not doing that, because that's the old school. That's like a negative way that, unfortunately, I think a lot of newer agents will think that. They'll be like, oh man, they're giving me objections. No, they're giving you objections. That's great. They're still speaking with you. They didn't hang up the phone on you. So that's why I think it's really good. As far as objections are concerned, Chris, is there like any other advice that you can think of that you would want to, give right now?
Yeah, I would say this, that don't feel, I'm not a big, once they give me that objection from that line I give them, and then they come back again, I'm pretty much done with them, because I've given them every opportunity to where, in my mind, they don't have to worry about paying anything up front. We're not going to start this till next month. You got plenty of time to think about this, like it's their idea almost. And I know I did my job on building up rapport. So once I get to that point and they object again, I'm pretty much ready to go on to the next one. I'm not going to have my blood pressure go up and sit there and try to, because you're just not going to win that way. Even if you do get lucky and you pound them enough to where you get the sale, I can assure you that one right there is going to be a cancellation or a chargeback. So in my opinion, if you have to go, definitely looping is important, but if you have to go back in again after you've done your job and you've overcame that objection and they're still hitting you with it, they're not serious to start with. And I'll say this, I know you had asked me, and I don't know if you remember, you'd asked me to touch on some other stuff too, as far as pertaining to previous leads from the week before.
Yeah. But hang on, before you get to that, because I do want to talk a little bit about what you're doing on Mondays. So just to be clear, guys, a lot of these folks, they'll give they'll give the objection like, okay, well, can I get a couple days to think about? Well, I need to think about it. That is the objection that's like the easier one to overcome. That's the one that Chris is talking about, where they're still interested. They're not saying, you know what, there's no way in the world I can afford anything like that. There's nothing. They're not like completely cutting them off. They're just giving them a simple objection. So he will kind of loop and converse with them for a few minutes, and he'll address the objection the way he just described. But then the thing is, a lot of them will come up with that second objection, which is a lot of times, well, I still need to talk to my daughter. And so that's why it's so important that you listen to that recording, because that recording is the perfect example of that objection. It's exactly what it is. Chris, now, every Monday, you seem to figure out a way. And Monday, guys, for those of you who really haven't gotten on the platform or started yet, Monday is like the slowest day. We start our advertising in a way that we make sure you're paying as little as possible for your leads and as little as possible for your appointments. So whatever reason, Monday is always the hardest one. It's just always the slowest day, the first day of the week. By Tuesday, it's picked up a lot. By Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're booked. You're slammed if you're doing it right. If you're doing what Chris does and you're spending around $1,500 a week. So it's like you're super booked. But every Monday, Chris, you manage to squeeze out a sale or two from clients from the week before. Can you describe what the heck you're doing, exactly how you're doing that? Every Monday, it seems like you're doing that.
So one thing I do, we all talk to people that say, well, can you call me back on this day? Or, you know, maybe they couldn't talk to you right then. Maybe you didn't even get in the presentation. They asked you to call you back the next day, or one that you got close on, but maybe didn't quite seal the deal, but they still tell you they want to talk to you. I know in the past, probably a lot of agents just trash that and don't worry about that and move on to the next one. I screenshot those on my cell phone. I take a picture of it and the conversation I had that, hey, I'll call you back on Monday or whatever. A lot of times this will happen on a Thursday or a Friday. And you know what? It's just a phone call. So yeah, most of the time those people aren't serious because you've done went through it with them or whatever, or they've done put you off once, but it's just a phone call. It takes nothing to dial that number at 9:30 in the morning before you started your day or whatever. So I save those, and I have probably 4 or 5 of those every week that carry over to the next week. And I'll give an example. 2 weeks ago on a Monday, I didn't have very many appointments set. Like I said, Doug said, Mondays are typically slow, and I didn't sell anything off my leads that Monday, anything off my appointments. I sold 2 apps off the previous Friday for Monday. I had spoke to a lady that I just couldn't overcome the objection with her, but you know, she was still on the fence, and we decided to discuss it again on Monday. And I sold her and her husband pretty big premium. Just the way it worked out. I do that, like Doug said, almost every week. I pick up 1 or 2 policies from old leads, previous appointments that I either didn't quite close the deal with, or I had to wait and speak to the following week. This week, another example. Let's see here, same thing. I wrote one from the previous week, and it was the same exact situation. I'll use another example from Friday. So you're on the phone, you got your day set for your appointments. If you're paying attention to the system, you know, you have people that may not set an appointment, may not even fill out their name, but they may send a text message. So I had a person text me and said, hey, I need to speak with you as soon as possible. Not in an appointment, don't even have their name in the system. It's just a phone number showing up. But the text came through while I was actually on the phone with another client. So I texted them back. I said, look, when I get a break between appointments, I'll definitely call you. Who am I speaking with? If they're serious, they're going to give me their name. If they're not, I'm not going to waste my time and call them. They gave me their name. And it was an absolute laydown. They had just cashed in a policy they had had all their life, put that cash in the bank. They got plenty of money, was going to take out he wanted another $25,000 whole life policy to set aside for his wife. And it was a $180 premium. He was like 70 years old. Not in an appointment, but I'm using what the system is giving me. It doesn't take but just a second to make a phone call. That's why if you get close on some and they put you off, yeah, it sucks. Most of the time, those aren't going to go anywhere. But 1 or 2 apps can make a difference in a week. I was having a bad week last week. I ended up with over 9,000 AP because of that $180 premium, because of the 1 or 2 apps I had sold from the week before on a Monday. That was the difference from having a $4,000 or $5,000 week jumping up to a $9,000 week, which was, and I know Doug probably gets tired of hearing me complain, because for me, I consider that a bad week. I know Brandon gets tired of hearing it. So I still wasn't happy, but it made, for me, a bad week turn into a livable week.
Nice. And guys, just to be clear, so Chris is one of the agents. He actually does what we recommend. One of the things that he's doing is he's working a lot of hours. You know, his attitude, he and I had a couple conversations. His attitude is, well, look, if it's going to be a day where I'm working, I'm going to work that day. So he's generally putting at least 8 to 10 hours into the system. And The one thing he does, even on Mondays, this is super key, guys, is I can see how many dials everybody makes. He's still making at least 75 dials, even on a Monday. Because, Monday you may only get in, I don't know, 5 appointments and then 7 leads, right? But he's still dialing the heck out of everything from last week. He's not making it like a light day, an easy day. He's putting in the extra effort to make these sales. And guys, for those of you who don't know, most systems, most agencies you call, you want to talk to them about doing telesales, they'll tell you for this to work, you've got to call your leads about 150 to 200 times. With our calendar appointment system, you're still calling the leads, but with the appointments, you're cutting those dials in half. You should only have to dial 75 to maybe 100 times to get better results than what these other agencies are getting, dialing 150 to over 200 dials. Chris, thank you very much, man. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask, you know what? Let me ask one question to you. And this is a little off topic, but one of the agents asked me this yesterday. And I was like, you know what? You're better off talking to someone who's actively doing it. I told him to maybe ask Brandon about it. When you're dialing your appointments and you're dialing your leads, when do you leave a voice message? At what point? How many dials into it is when you start to leave a voice message?
So I double dial everybody. I know you're a triple dialer. I at least double dial everybody for sure, back to back. On the first time, I never leave a voicemail. And honestly, I have actually gotten to where I don't leave a lot of voicemails, but I do the automated message when you click to no show on the calendar appointment. I have found that more people respond to that than they do the actual voicemail. So I don't leave a lot of voicemails anymore. I still do. I'd say probably on half of them, but most of the time I just do the no show and move on. Another thing that I have started to notice, the 844 number, to me, the local numbers has gotten to a point because people are so bombarded by people changing their numbers to local numbers that they're not answering the local numbers. I'm having just as much of a pickup rate on the 844. I got to where I almost strictly use the 844 number because I tested both, and I'm seeing just as many people answer the phone on the 844 number. And I like it because they know who you are when you call, because they've been told you're calling from that number. So I started that probably 5-6 weeks ago, doing both just to see. And once I got to the point where I couldn't tell any difference on a pickup rate, 99% of my calls, regardless of the state, is from the 844 number.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you much, man. One last thing. Is there any other advice that you would give to anybody who's just getting ready to start, or maybe even in their first few weeks? Anything?
The number one thing I would tell anybody starting out, or maybe hasn't been doing this a long time, doesn't have, I have over 15 years of final expense experience. So there's probably some things I do that I'm just more comfortable with. But at the end of the day, if you're putting in the work, you don't have to have 15 years experience. You don't have to be the greatest on the phone. If you're doing what Doug said by dialing, making it minimum 75 calls a day, and you've done your homework where you at least know your presentation and what you're going to say to people, you're going to have success because you're putting in the work. That would be the number one thing I could tell anybody starting out is don't go to lunch and take a 2-hour lunch, or go take you a nap, or, go do this during the day. Put in those 8 to 10 hours of calling, at least 75 dials a day, and you're going to get the opportunities. You're going to get through the learning curve, but you're going to make sales. You're going to at least get the lay downs, right? You're going to at least get the lay downs if you're putting in enough calls. So that would be my number one tip.
Excellent. All right, guys, let's, Chris, I'm going to open it up and see, does anybody have any questions or anything that you maybe want to pick his brain at. Now, Michelle, go ahead.
I have a question. He said, okay, should I buy some old aged leads to do the 75 dials? Because I don't have 75 people right now.
In my opinion, Michelle, so that's good. Remember, if you just call me one time and I don't recognize your number, I'm not picking up the phone. Okay. I may be expecting your call, but then I'm thinking, I don't know what that is. So, could that be that client that calls me every month and asks me something silly? Oh, that's what goes through my head. You call me one time, that's what's happening. If you've got, I would say, Michelle, count all your leads. Let's say you only, because I know you started with a minimum budget, but I bet if you count all your leads that you haven't reached along with your appointments, you're probably going to have at least 50 leads. So literally by double dialing each one of them, you've made over 100 dials. And that's the key. When we say dials, 75 dials, if you're triple dialing all of your appointments and leads, that's only 25 appointments. That's only 25 clients that you're dialing if you're triple dialing everybody. So it's the whole thing is the reason that we triple dial is because if you call me once and I don't recognize the number, all right, forget it. A second time, I'm going to think maybe I need to get this. I don't know. I'm doing something else. And then the third time, I'm like, you know what? This might be important. That's what goes through my head. What if it's somebody I don't realize? What if it's my wife needing help, but her phone's not working because she's in the middle of nowhere and I'm going to pick up the phone? So everybody does the same thing. That's why I believe in the triple dialing. Try both. Try double dialing. Try triple dialing. But it's even if it's like your first couple of days on the phone, it's not hard to make those dials. And that's the key.
Let me say this though.
Yes.
So when I mentioned when I first came on board, I had never in my life double or triple dialed ever. I would have, say, 25 direct mail leads a week to work or 30. And I would dial them one time in the morning, one time at lunch, one time in the evening. And I would do the same thing the next day. If I hadn't got a hold of them, I'd move on. Immediately, not, sporadically, immediately, the very first time I tried double dialing, I was like, wow, these people are picking up the phone on the second time. Every time, just about it. At least just to see who this is that called them back to back. So when Doug does say double dialing, triple dialing, he's definitely not talking about at 9, 12, and 6. He's talking about 9 o'clock. Nope, they didn't answer. 9 o'clock and 30 seconds, I'm calling right back. And 9 o'clock and, 9:01, I'm calling the third time. So it works. I have proven it to myself because I've never done it in my life. And I saw immediate success by doing that. Excellent.
Excellent. And one other thing, Michelle, real quick. Even when you don't have a lot, this is for anybody who's doing this, I've got this, my philosophy is if your ad budget is below, maybe $900, $1,000, if it's below that, it's going to be tougher. But the simple fact is, even if your budget's only $650, you just need to work those leads more. In other words, those people, you need to triple dial them maybe 8 or 10 times a day. And you're going to be surprised. They may just get home from work on your last dials and pick up the phone. And now because you made those last dials at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, boom, now you just got a sale that made your whole week. And that's the trick. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yep. So also, Michelle, it's only your third day so far. So don't stress about buying aged leads, because the thing is you're getting a lot of leads that are coming through that are not appointments. And this is only your third day. So here on your fourth and your fifth and next week, you're not going to have that issue where you don't have enough leads. The only reason that you don't have enough is it's your third day. But you still, if I was looking at the report correctly, have about 100, somewhere around that ballpark, which we can go over that later today after the call too, if you'd like.
Excellent. That's good stuff, Brandon. There you go. Yeah, next Monday, Michelle, you're not going to have that issue. You're going to have all the people from this week. You're going to be able to do exactly what Chris is talking about. Those of you guys on your first week or looking at your first week. By your second week, there's no reason for you not to be busy on a Monday, just grinding it out.
I have another question. Since I don't have many leads and just what I do have, if I didn't make a sale, should I try to call them back and improve again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep working that lead. Keep working it. That's how you're going to get better at this. 100%, you know, especially, you know, look, the guy, like we're this morning, I listened to a call of yours, you know, you asked me to, and I know the guy actually inadvertently hung up on you. So they'll do that sometimes. And you know what? That's okay. So would I call him back? Actually, I would, because remember, his excuse when you started the looping, his excuse was, well, I need to talk to my wife first. So now if you can catch him in the evening, maybe he may be on disability and his wife is the decision maker. She's the one working. To me, that's when if I'm speaking to one half of a couple, you know, if I'm doing what we call a one-legger, if they're the financial decision maker, then I like them. Then I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to push them. But if I realize that they're not, that maybe if they tell me, well, you know, I don't work, my wife's at work. Well, she's working. She's the money maker. She's wearing the pants financially. So, you know, keep working that lead. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Anybody else? All right. Excellent. Chris, thank you, man. I really, really appreciate this. You know, Chris, anything else you can think of? Anything else you want to bring up at all?
Oh, just go to work.
That's it, guys. Hey, everybody, have a great rest of your week. Those of you who are in the field, do your thing. Anybody needs anything, reach out to me. And for those of you on the phone, smile and dial. Happy hunting.